Hello, story lovers. Today's story is one of heartbreak, betrayal, and ultimately, healing. It's about a woman who had her entire world shattered 6 years ago when the people she trusted most, her fiancé and her own half-sister, betrayed her the night before her wedding. She rebuilt her life from the ashes, piece by piece until she found peace, success, and love again. But just 2 weeks before her new wedding, when she thought she'd finally buried the past, she got a message that changed everything. "This is the man who destroyed my life just texted me 2 weeks before my wedding." Let's begin. The man who destroyed my life just texted me 2 weeks before my wedding. I stared at my phone for a full minute before I even breathed. The name on my screen didn't feel real at first. It was one of those moments where your brain refuses to connect the dots between what you're seeing and what it means. The message preview said, "Amara, I need to see you one last time. Please. Everything isn't what you think it was." I hadn't heard from Darren in 6 years. Not one text, not one call, nothing. And yet there he was, sliding back into my life like some ghost that had finally remembered where I lived. 2 weeks. That's all that stood between me and the life I've spent 6 years rebuilding from scratch. 2 weeks until I marry Ethan Ross, the calmest, most grounded, most genuine man I've ever known, my fiancé, my peace. And now, the man who destroyed everything once before wanted to see me again. I didn't even realize I was holding my breath until Ethan called my name from the kitchen. "Babe, you okay?" I locked my phone and forced my face to stay neutral. "Yeah," I said, a little too quickly. "Just a weird message." He raised an eyebrow. That quiet, knowing look he has. The one that says, "You don't have to hide with me." So I told him, I showed him the message. The name, the timestamp. The fact that Darren somehow still had my number after all these years. Ethan read it twice. No reaction, no anger, no jealousy. Just that thoughtful stillness that always makes me feel like I'm standing in a room with a man who's unshakable. Finally, he looked at me and said, "If you're going to meet him, then do it on your terms." That wasn't the reaction I expected. I thought he'd tell me to block the number. Delete it, pretend it never happened. But Ethan doesn't believe in pretending. He believes in finishing things the right way. He reached for my hand across the counter. "Whatever you decide," he said quietly. "We do it clear, not emotional. No open wounds before our wedding." I nodded, even though my stomach was twisting. Because here's the thing. I thought I had closed that door years ago. I thought I'd buried every trace of Darren and the mess he left behind. But the truth? All it took was one text. And every old bruise started to ache again. 6 years ago, I thought I was living a dream. I was 27, newly promoted, engaged to the man I believed was my forever. Darren and I had been together for 4 years. He was charming in that loud, confident way that makes you feel like you're standing in someone's spotlight. He was the kind of man who made every room louder just by being in it. The storyteller. The guy everyone wanted to be around. I used to mistake that noise for charisma. I used to think being with someone who drew attention meant I was part of something magnetic. We were supposed to get married on a Saturday in May. Everything was ready. The venue, the flowers, the playlist, my dress hanging in the closet. My sister Talia was my maid of honor, half-sister technically. Same father, different mothers. If you'd asked anyone who knew us back then, they would have said we were close. And for a long time we were. Talia was 2 years younger than me. Funny, beautiful, endlessly social. She had that same shine Darren did. The kind of people who love being adored. I didn't realize they'd found that in each other. The night before the wedding, I was staying at a hotel with my bridesmaids. I'd left the backup ring at my apartment, just a small gold band meant to go under the real one in case anything happened. A silly little detail, but it felt important to have everything perfect. It was almost 10 p.m. when I drove back to the apartment. I remember thinking Darren might already be asleep. We'd agreed not to see each other before the ceremony, old-fashioned, but he insisted it was romantic. I still had a key. Of course I did. It was our place. When I unlocked the door, the first thing I noticed was the lights. They were on. And not just the soft lamp glow we usually left. Full lights, like a dinner party had just ended. I remember thinking maybe Talia was there. She'd been helping with last-minute details. Maybe they were finishing up something for the wedding. Then I heard it. A laugh. My sister's laugh, but not her normal one. This was breathy, intimate. like the sound you make when you're trying to keep quiet but can't help yourself. I froze in the hallway. Every muscle in my body went rigid, and then I heard him. Darren. His voice low and close, saying her name. For a second, I honestly thought my mind was playing tricks on me. I walked toward the bedroom like I was underwater, like maybe when I opened the door it would all make sense. A misunderstanding, a stupid prank, anything. But when I turned that handle and pushed the door open, everything inside me broke. They were in our bed. My bed, sheets tangled. Wine glasses on the nightstand. Candles still burning, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't say a word. I just stood there, watching the two people I loved most in the world freeze like they'd been caught stealing air. Talia's face went pale. Darren sat up, his mouth opening, trying to explain something that couldn't be explained. Then Talia said it. The one sentence that's burned into my memory so deep it might as well be carved into bone. Amara, I'm sorry, but I never wanted to marry you. I wanted him. There are some moments your brain refuses to process. That was one of them. I left. I don't even remember locking the door. By midnight, I'd canceled the venue. By 2 a.m, I'd sent a group email to every guest explaining the wedding was off. By dawn, I'd packed a suitcase, and by noon, the time I was supposed to be walking down the aisle, I was on the highway heading north, leaving everything behind. I didn't stop driving until I hit Atlanta. I didn't look back. That first year was brutal. Grief doesn't just come when someone dies. It comes when a future dies, when every version of what could have been collapses at once. I worked like I was trying to outrun my own thoughts. I joined my college friend Nia in her tiny startup idea, a software platform for managing construction projects. We worked out of a shared office with a flickering light and broken AC, eating noodles for dinner, surviving on caffeine and adrenaline. For a while, it was just survival. But then, something clicked. I realized I wasn't just building a company. I was rebuilding me. Every hour I spent coding or pitching or troubleshooting was an hour I wasn't replaying that night. Every milestone, a first client, a small contract, a local award, was proof that my life wasn't over just because they ruined a part of it. By the 3rd year, we had an office downtown. By the 4th, we were profitable. By the 5th, we made the state's fastest-growing companies list, and somewhere in between all of that, I stopped thinking about Darren and Talia, or I thought I had. Because then, one day, I met Ethan Ross. He came into my life in the least romantic way possible, through a contract dispute. One of our subcontractors had messed up delivery schedules, and Ethan was the attorney representing their firm. He was calm, precise, focused, and during the mediation, he called out one of my clauses, not aggressively, not condescendingly, just directly. I remember thinking, who is this man who can stand toe-to-toe with me without trying to outshine me? After it was over, I thanked him for his professionalism. He smiled and polite, warm, and then that was it. I didn't think about it again until 2 weeks later when I ran into him at a networking event. He remembered my name. He asked how the business was doing. He didn't flirt. He didn't overstep. He just talked. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was being measured or tested. He asked me to dinner. I said no. He asked again. I said no again. The 3rd time, I said yes. Mostly because he asked like a man who knew rejection wasn't personal. It was just timing. That night, over pasta and wine, I told him the short version of my story. He didn't react with pity. He just listened, then said something that stuck with me ever since. People like that can destroy your plans, but they can't destroy your purpose. We've been together ever since. 2 years now, and in 2 weeks I'm marrying him, or at least, I was. Until Darren's text arrived. Because no matter how healed you think you are, when the person who broke you reaches out, something in you trembles. It's not love. It's not longing. It's the ghost of pain remembering its shape. I stared at that text for hours before I finally typed back. If you have something to say, say it. But I choose where and when, and I hit send. When I hit send, I didn't know what I expected. Maybe silence, maybe relief. Instead, my phone buzzed 5 minutes later. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. at the Haven Lounge. Please, Amara, I just need to explain. Explain? That word sat heavy on my chest. What explanation could ever exist for what I walked in on 6 years ago? Still, the next night at dinner, I told Ethan everything. We were at the little Thai place down the street, our Tuesday spot. He was halfway through his pad CU when I said, "He wants to meet tomorrow." He put his fork down slowly. "Do you want to?" I looked at him for a long time. Part of me doesn't. I want to act like he doesn't exist. But there's this small voice that keeps saying, what if hearing it face to face is the last piece I need to let go? Ethan nodded. Then meet him. But meet him properly. He said it with that quiet conviction that always makes me listen. So we came up with a plan. I texted Darren back. Tomorrow, 7 p.m., the Haven Lounge, downtown. Come alone. I didn't tell him I wouldn't be alone. Ethan insisted on coming. He said, you don't owe him privacy. If he wanted a private conversation, he should have kept his vows. The next evening, I wore a charcoal dress, simple, sharp, businesslike. Ethan wore his dark blue suit. We looked less like a couple on a date and more like two people about to close a deal. We got to the Haven 15 minutes early and took a corner booth with a clear view of the door. The place was modern, softly lit. Glass, steel, jazz in the background. Ethan ordered me a whiskey, neat. For courage, he said with a small smile. At exactly 7:03, Darren walked in. For a second, I didn't recognize him. He looked older, not just in the natural way time ages people, but in that hollow way life wears down those who never learn to face themselves. His once bright smile was gone. His hair had thinned. The confidence he used to wear like cologne had evaporated. When he spotted me, his whole face changed, this mixture of relief and regret. Then he saw Ethan. He hesitated. "Amara," he said, stopping at the edge of the booth. "I didn't know you'd bring someone," I gestured to the seat across from me. "You said you needed to talk." "So talk," he sat. His hands were trembling slightly. I could see the faint twitch in his jaw. The same one he used to get when he was trying to manipulate a situation. "I just need you to know," he started, "that what happened back then, it wasn't what you think." I almost laughed. "Really? Because what I think is that you were sleeping with my sister the night before our wedding. Did I misunderstand something?" He flinched. "I know how it looks. I know what I did was wrong. But it wasn't like we planned." I held up a hand. "Please don't say it just happened. That line doesn't work on me." He stopped talking. For a moment, the only sound was the low hum of music. Then he said softer, "You're right. It wasn't the first time." He looked down at his hands. "It had been going on for 3 months. But Amara, I swear I never meant to hurt you. I was confused. Your dad always compared you and Talia, and she..." I interrupted. Don't you dare drag my father into this. You made a choice, Darren. You could have called off the wedding. You could have walked away. But instead, you let me pay for a venue, send invitations, plan a future, while you were already destroying it." Tears pooled in his eyes. "I know. And I've paid for it, Amara. You have no idea what the last 6 years have been like for me." Before I could reply, Ethan leaned forward slightly, his voice calm but edged with steel. "Paid for it how?" he asked. "By losing the woman you betrayed? Because that's not payment. That's consequence." Darren blinked, looking between us. He tried again. "After you left, Talia and we didn't last. She told me she wasn't ready to settle down. I lost my job. Most of our friends took your side. My family barely speaks to me." I listened, but there was no satisfaction in hearing it. "No vindication, just emptiness, so that's why you're here?" I asked quietly. "To make me feel sorry for you?" "No," he said quickly. "I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. That I understand what I destroyed. That I've spent years trying to be a better person." Ethan's hand found mine under the table. His thumb pressed gently against my wrist. A small reminder that I wasn't back in that apartment 6 years ago. I was here, whole, healed, untouchable. "Darren," I said slowly, "you didn't just destroy a wedding. You destroyed my sense of safety, my faith in family, my ability to trust. But I rebuilt all of that without you. I don't need your apology to validate my healing." His voice cracked. "So what? You just hate me forever?" I shook my head. "No, hate takes energy. I don't have any left for you. You're just nothing to me now." He looked stunned, like the idea of being irrelevant hurt worse than any insult. "Amara, please," he whispered. "I just wanted closure." Ethan spoke again, his tone low and precise. "No, you wanted absolution. You want her to tell you it's okay so you can feel better about yourself. But that's not her job. That's what therapy is for. Darren looked like he wanted to argue, but couldn't. I stood up, sliding my chair back quietly. Thank you for confirming what I already knew. I needed to see this to realize how completely I've moved on. But this is goodbye. Ethan rose beside me. He turned to Darren and said, "From this point forward, don't contact her again. Not for closure. Not for apologies. Not for anything. She's not your unfinished story anymore." Darren's lips parted like he wanted to respond, but no sound came out. I nodded once, a silent farewell, and walked away. Ethan placed a hand at the small of my back as we left the haven. The night air was cool, and I remember breathing for what felt like the first time in hours. In the car, neither of us spoke. The silence was cleansing. When we got home, Ethan poured us both a glass of whiskey. "How do you feel?" he asked finally. "Lighter," I said. "Like I just put down something I didn't know I was still carrying." He smiled, that small, knowing smile of his, and kissed my forehead. "Good," he said. "Now let's get married and never think about him again." For the first time in years, I believed that was possible. 4 days passed. The message thread with Darren stayed quiet. I started to relax. I thought maybe that was truly the end. Then my phone rang. It was my father. We hadn't had a real conversation in years, not since the fallout with Talia. When everything happened, he'd taken her side. Said I was overreacting. That family mistakes shouldn't destroy relationships. I almost didn't answer. But some old instinct made me swipe accept. "Amara," he said, his voice rough. "Talia told me you met with Darren last week." My stomach sank. "How would she even know that?" He hesitated. "They still talk sometimes? She told me she's worried about you. Said you're holding on to anger and it's going to ruin your marriage." I let out a dry laugh. "She's worried about my marriage? That's rich." "She's just trying to make peace," he said. "She regrets what happened." "Does she?" I asked. "Because she's had 6 years to say that. 6 years to reach out, and the only thing I've gotten from her is silence. Until now, when she's suddenly concerned that I'm too angry to be happy." "Amara, listen," he said gently, like I was the one who needed calming. "She was young. People make mistakes. You're sisters. Blood is blood." I felt something inside me go still. "Dad," I said quietly, "blood doesn't excuse betrayal. It just makes it hurt more." There was a long silence. "You've changed," he said finally, sounding almost sad. "I had to," I replied, "because you and Talia and Darren left me no choice." He sighed. "So that's it? You're just cutting us all off?" "I'm protecting my peace," I said. "If that feels like being cut off to you, maybe ask yourself why." Then I hung up. Ethan was standing in the doorway of the study. He'd heard most of it. He walked over and squeezed my shoulder. "You did the right thing." I nodded, but my chest felt tight, because the truth was, I hadn't realized how deep the wound with my father still ran. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about how some families only understand loyalty when it benefits them. 2 days later, it got worse. My phone buzzed again. Not from Darren. Not from Talia, but from Michael, my operations director and one of my closest friends. "You're not going to believe who just showed up at the office," he said. His voice clipped with disbelief. I already knew before he said it. "Talia," I whispered. He exhaled. "Yep, she said she was worried about you. That she thinks you're rushing into this marriage without processing your trauma." I told her to leave before I called security. I felt my pulse spike. Not fear, just anger. Controlled, cold anger. Ethan came into my office when he saw my face. "What's wrong?" I told him. He didn't hesitate. "She's done," he said. "I'll handle it." That night, Ethan drafted a cease and desist letter through his firm. It stated clearly, any further contact with me, my fiancé, or any of our associates would be considered harassment and met with legal action. He didn't even ask before sending it. When I asked why, he said, "Because you're too kind to do it yourself." And he was right. The next morning, the letter was hand-delivered to Talia's apartment. She never contacted me again. For a few days, peace settled back over my life. Then an email came. From Darren. The subject line said, "For closure." I almost deleted it without reading, but curiosity won for a second. I skimmed. He wrote that Talia had reached out to him after our meeting, that she was struggling, that she regretted everything. He said he was now engaged himself and wanted to make peace before his own wedding. He ended with, "I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I hope one day you'll remember me kindly." I forwarded it straight to Ethan. He replied, "One line. Want me to send him one too?" I smiled at my screen. "Not yet," I typed back. "Let's save it for the honeymoon gift list." We were getting married in 4 days, 40 guests. Friends, colleagues, people who'd seen us grow. No family drama. No ghosts. Or so I thought. The morning before the wedding week began, Atlanta felt impossibly calm. Clear skies, cool wind off the river. The kind of day that feels like the world is trying to reassure you everything will be all right. I woke up next to Ethan and realized it was the first time in years. I hadn't dreamed about the past. No broken engagements, no hallway laughter, no echoes of betrayal, just quiet. We spent the day running last-minute errands, flowers, suit fitting, confirming the playlist, mundane, ordinary things that suddenly felt sacred. That evening, while I was packing for the trip to Savannah, my phone buzzed again, an unknown number, for a heartbeat. I thought, not again, but I opened it anyway. Amara. "It's Dad. Please don't hang up." I hadn't blocked him. Maybe a part of me had been waiting to see if he'd finally understand. I answered, "Dad." He sounded tired, older. Ethan, he sighed. "Sorry, I've been thinking about your wedding. I want to come. I know you said not to, but family should be there." I closed my eyes. "Dad, you chose your side 6 years ago. You told me I was overreacting when my fiancé slept with my sister. You told me to forgive and move on before I'd even unpacked my grief." He tried the same tone he always used when he wanted to control the narrative. Calm, fatherly, reasonable. "You've moved on now. Isn't that forgiveness?" "No," I said quietly. "It's healing." "They're not the same thing." He was silent for a long time. Then, "Talia's not doing well. I think she needs her sister." That familiar guilt tried to crawl back up my throat, but I pushed it down. "Then she needs a therapist, Dad, not me." He exhaled sharply. "You've become so cold." "I've become safe," I said. "And that's not cold. That's peace." I hung up before he could answer. That night, Ethan found me sitting on the couch, staring at the window. He didn't ask what happened. He just handed me tea and said, "Whatever it was, it's behind us." I nodded. "It really is, isn't it?" "It is," he said. "Because tomorrow we drive to Savannah, and the only people allowed in that space are the ones who love you right." The next 2 days blurred together in that soft, anticipatory way weddings do. Final fittings, last-minute calls. My best friend Nia fussing over table settings. She kept saying, "Girl, you are glowing," and for once I believed her. Friday night, Ethan and I had dinner on the terrace of the inn where we were staying. He lifted his glass and said, "To second chances done right." "To peace," I said. We clinked glasses. The moment felt unshakable. Until the next morning. I was sipping coffee, scrolling through last-minute messages from vendors, when my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. 3 words. "I'm sorry, Amara, no name." No context. But I knew who it was. Ellipsis. Delete. Block. I didn't even tell Ethan until later that night. He listened, then smiled softly. "Good. You didn't let her back in." "No," I said. "I didn't, and I meant it." Our wedding was everything the last one wasn't. Small, simple, intentional. 40 people in a vineyard courtyard at sunset. No drama, no ghosts. Just laughter and wind through the vines. When I walked down the aisle, Ethan's face was steady and kind. My heartbeat slowed. For the first time in 6 years, I wasn't walking away from something. I was walking toward it. The ceremony passed in a blur. Vows, rings, the quiet sound of our friends clapping. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," Ethan whispered, "You ready for forever?" "I already started," I said. During the reception, my best man, Michael, gave a toast that made everyone laugh and tear up at the same time. "To Amara," he said, raising his glass, "who rebuilt herself from ashes like a phoenix in heels." Everyone cheered. I laughed. And for a second I saw flashes of everything I'd survived. The hotel room, the packed suitcase, the flickering office light, the first client, Ethan's steady eyes, all of it leading to this moment. Later, while we were dancing under string lights, Ethan leaned close and whispered, "No regrets?" "None," I said. He smiled. "Then we did it right." The next morning, we left for a short honeymoon in Colorado. Mountains, quiet trails, no phones. For 5 days, I didn't think about Darren or Talia or my father. I didn't even check email. When we flew back to Atlanta, the first thing I noticed was how light my apartment felt, like the air itself had changed. Ethan was unpacking when he said, I expected one last act of chaos. I'm almost disappointed," I laughed. "Don't jinx it." He didn't, because the chaos had finally burned itself out. Back home, there was one envelope waiting in the mail pile, a wedding card addressed in my father's handwriting. Inside, "Congratulations on your marriage. Wishing you both happiness. Dad." No apology. No reflection. Just the bare minimum of civility. I put it back in the envelope, walked to the trash, and let it drop. That sound, the soft thud of paper hitting the bin, was the real closure. Sometimes people talk about forgiveness like it's the ultimate goal. Like peace only comes when you let the people who hurt you back into your heart. But that's not true. Forgiveness isn't a gift you give them. It's a release you give yourself, and sometimes that release doesn't look like "I forgive you." Sometimes it looks like silence, blocking numbers, letting the past stay dead. I used to think healing meant making peace with the people who broke me. Now I know it means making peace with the version of myself who stayed too long. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not scared, I'm just free, and that's enough. It's been 12 days since the wedding, and I'm sitting in our living room now, watching the last of the morning light fall across the hardwood floors. Ethan's still asleep on the couch, case files spread over the coffee table. His glasses slipping down his nose. He's snoring softly, and I can't help but smile. There's a peace in this silence that I can feel all the way down in my bones. It's the kind of peace that doesn't ask for proof or performance. It just is. For years, I thought I needed closure to move on. I thought if I just got an explanation, if I could understand why, the pain would make sense. But sometimes closure isn't an answer. It's the moment you stop needing one. 6 years ago, I thought my life had ended. Now I know it had only just started. Everything I am, the company, the friendships, the confidence, the marriage, all of it was built from the ashes of what they burned down. People like to say karma is real, like the universe keeps score. But I've learned karma isn't about revenge. It's about reflection. It's about watching people face the weight of their own choices while you move on, untouched. I heard through a mutual acquaintance that Talia moved back to our hometown. She's working retail now, a long way from the executive job she once bragged about. Maybe she's trying to rebuild too. I don't hate her. I just hope she finally learns what real accountability feels like. And Darren, apparently his engagement fell apart. His fiancé found out about what happened between us and Talia and decided she couldn't trust him. Lost his job at the firm where he worked and left the state. That's the thing about unhealed people. They just keep recreating their own wreckage. As for my father, he's alone now. Talia's distance hit him hard, and I guess he's starting to realize that forgive and forget isn't a parenting strategy. My cousin told me he finally admitted to backing the wrong child. I wish that had come sooner, when it might have mattered. But the truth is, I don't need his apology anymore, because I'm not that woman who begged for understanding or kept waiting for someone else to fix what they broke. I fixed it. I fixed me. Sometimes when I think about that night, the door opening, the laughter, the words that gutted me, it feels like a story that happened to someone else, like I'm watching an old movie on mute. I still remember the details, but the pain is gone, replaced by this strange gratitude that I survived it. People always ask what forgiveness looks like. For me, it looks like waking up next to a man who treats my peace like it's priceless. It looks like running a company that I built with my own 2 hands. It looks like laughing again without hearing ghosts in the echo, and it looks like deleting a message from an unknown number without even flinching. I don't need closure from them anymore. I don't need their explanations, Because I have something better, clarity. Used to think I was broken, but now I know. I was just being remade, so if you're listening to this and someone has shattered you in a way you don't know how to come back from, please hear me when I say this. You will. You won't be the same. And that's the point. You'll be stronger, quieter, sharper. You'll build a life so far beyond the wreckage they left that one day that they won't even recognize you. And you'll smile, not because you won, but because they no longer have the power to hurt you. That's the real ending. Not revenge, not forgiveness, just peace. Ethan's stirring now, groaning, reaching for his glasses. He looks over at me and smiles that sleepy, crooked smile I love. "Hey," he says. "You okay?" I nod. "Perfect." He stretches, leans back, and says, "Good, because we've got a lifetime to keep it that way." I laugh softly. "Then let's start now." He reaches for my hand. And that's where the story ends. Not with heartbreak, not with anger, not with regret, but with a woman who rebuilt her life brick by brick until it fit her perfectly, because sometimes the best revenge is peace. You know, people talk about strength like it's loud, like it's something that roars and fights and wins, but real strength, it's quiet. It's the moment you choose peace over proving a point. It's walking away from the apology you know will never come. It's saying, "I don't forgive you, but I release you," and meaning it. If the past 6 years have taught me anything, it's that heartbreak isn't the end of your story. It's the edit that makes the story worth telling. Pain changes you, but it doesn't have to define you. You get to decide what you build from the pieces. Sometimes I think about that younger version of me, the one standing in that bedroom doorway, frozen and shattered. If I could speak to her now, I'd tell her one day you'll thank yourself for not breaking the way they expected you to. Because healing doesn't make you who you were before. It makes you someone stronger than you ever planned to be. And that's what this really is. Not a story about betrayal, but about rebuilding. About turning ruins into foundations. About finally understanding that peace isn't something you find, it's something you become. Thank you for listening, story lovers. If this one moved you, remember, healing isn't about what you lose, it's about what you rebuild. Until next time.